No, it's not that at all.
Alex, what was your question again?
Oh, yes,
As I put
yes.
down this phenomenal book that I can't
Yes,
read.
my question.
Splash pages
Yes,
and dialogue.
that
So,
was
Chris,
my
what,
question.
yeah, what was
Alright,
your
so
take on that?
Matt, as you guys saw in the class, Matt did answer that question. I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on it. 90% of the time, anytime I've ever seen a splash page, there are no bubbles. And again, you might experience one, but rule of thumb for splash pages is they are to bring attention to something, grab the reader either in the beginning of the comic, end of the comic, for a dramatic conclusion, but it paints a gorgeous picture of something monumental that occurred.
There better be a reason for it.
Exactly. You're never going to have a splash page, as I said, of Jim and Bob talking for a half hour, because then you literally have one page of 16 different speech bubbles, and if you want to experience that, you go read a book instead.
So, my counter to that is sometimes you'll have that splash page with a lot of narrative, and you can go back in time, like, and I think we talk about like Roy Thomas and Chris Claremont, where they shouldered just as much of a burden as the visual artist by describing what was going on in the environment. And I think in a giant splash page layout, there's a real great opportunity for it. But if time is related, then you can't do that. So timing is super important in comics, right? We don't want the reader to stay too long, right? If someone jumps out of a tree and they say 3 word balloons of content,
Yeah.
you're doing it wrong, right? Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you always, even though comics, as Matt was just saying, even though comics are, not real, you still put yourself in their shoes. Like Matt just said, if you're falling out of a tree, chances are you're not going to get 3 sentences out
No.
as you're hitting every branch on the way down, right? So you're never going to, these internal anime monologues don't really happen to a human being.
In a
So
fast moment.
Exactly.
So if you have like a fight going on between characters, please don't info dump. That's not important to do at that time. The fight should be about the dance itself, right? At that point, it's more about the choreography of the fight, which we've talked about here in our sequential arts class. I don't know. That was good. Good insight. What else were we talking about? How comics are closer to storyboarding now.
Oh yeah, and how? See, I have a different, meaner answer, but yeah.
Say the mean.
Yeah.
I think it's built on the 6-issue collection. I think comics now have their eye on taking 6 issues of content and bringing it to a larger book chain to sell and resell again. I don't think the recreational reader is really the target focus anymore for content. I think that they're looking to get it on a bookshelf, and that's why I think some of the miniseries now could easily be covered in one like jumbo size 60-page issue from yesteryear.
Nonsense. Like writers in the professional industry now, they don't storyboard for an issue, like you just said. They storyboard for 6 issues, then break down that information into issues. I think we lose a lot when we do that. I think we should still be going from small to large, because you get more meat, you get more words, you get more experiences, you get more events by doing exactly.
You take them on a better journey.
Exactly. I do a story of,
Keep them in there so they don't forget.
Yeah, I think the best books, and like I don't really read a lot of comic books because it takes me like 30 seconds.
Well, that's kind of the bane of the industry right now.
I think like the best kind
I
of books
hate
are
it when
like
it ends
the
on
really.
like a shoot.
But we can't show it. But there are readers. Chris is trying to read one right now where they view it in a very different way. Like, and I read a certain kind of book, and both issues are written so dramatically different. And I can honestly tell you, I can't stand one of them.
Yeah. It's funny, to Alex's point, one of my favorite comic writers is Scott Snyder. I used to not hate his writing, but I would just kind of be like, because he would put so many words on a page. And now as I've read more, I realize that adds such...
It really does.
Because you're not just flipping through the book in 5 minutes and done. Never read it again. You're sitting there, you're reading it. You might have to reread it. Like there's times I've had to reread his crap because it's like, oh.
It's a richer experience.
I would, like sometimes I would like graphic novels more than comic books because you get it all in there instead of having to wait for it and like you get the entire story. I love getting the entire story.
So I would say this: you've got a comic show coming up in 2 weeks, week and a half. Go get a John Byrne Fantastic Four, or get a Chris Claremont X-Men. Like that, the whole Dark Phoenix thing. It's going to be hard to find those books right now, but they reprinted those books. They were fantastic. Get a Frank Miller Daredevil, and you'll see how rich the storytelling. You're a Scott Snyder guy. Who was your guy before that, or was that it?
Oh my god, I'm drawing a blank on his name. He's the writer, Ivan, I can't think of his name. He wrote the New York Times. You know how they're doing the key superheroes for DC as hardcovers? The Earth ones.
Okay.
They did the Earth 1 Superman. It was 3 volumes.
Okay.
It was like New York Times bestsellers. They just come out as graphic novels. The writer of that.
So where does he fall in this whole
He's very wordy.
wording?
Or even
More
look
rich.
At,
Let's use the word rich.
More rich. Okay.
Let's keep it more rich. Give our writers some love. All right, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I was raising your hand. All right, there's your Sequential Arts second helping. How about that?
I think I wrote Saga. What's his name?
Brian K. Vaughan.
Thank you.
There you go.